Hey everybody, welcome to Listen Up. We're really happy that you're here and joining us for another episode that's being filmed inside this fantastic garage. Today we've got a great guest, Miss Meredith Wegener. She is the Director of Graduate Energy Programs at Oklahoma City University, and very thrilled to be able to talk to her kind of about the program, about what she has seen in the energy industry over the last year and a half, and kind of how we've navigated this whole pandemic life that everybody's kind of gone through. I was a student in the energy program many years ago in the second cohort, and so it's something that I'm very passionate about because I saw what it could do as a positive for my career and those that also took the class. We're still trying to be actively involved in the program, and we see what a positive it is for the city and for the industry. And so this is just a good look today for us to be able to find out more about the program and kind of find out more about Meredith as well. So Meredith, thanks for coming on, first off. To kind of open everything up, and we've done this with so many different guests, of the last year and a half has been, I think we've used all the words, the challenging, in these unprecedented times. That's how maybe 90% of my emails started out this last year. In these unprecedented times, that was something that I'm looking forward to getting rid of from Outlook. How did, number one, you fare, your family fare, and you kind of have it too from the educational standpoint of that was affected hugely from grade school all the way up to the graduate levels. So kind of take me through this last year for you.
Sure, absolutely. Well, first of all, thank you for having me. It's good to be here. And, when I think about this past year and a half, I think about it obviously like anybody from, the personal perspective, but also the professional perspective.
Right.
And so from a professional perspective at Oklahoma City University, spring of 2020, obviously we shifted to online about mid-semester, as all schools did around the world. And for me personally, that included my students that are undergraduate students as well as graduate students, and really took, kind of took spring break, and we moved as quickly as we could, through that week of thinking about how to change things from having that live face-to-face classroom environment to how could we do this successfully on, Zoom was our platform. And then of course we also have our learning platform, our Desire to Learn, which is a Brightspace platform an educational platform that we utilize. And so we had some of those pieces in place, and my hat's off from the administration, the faculty, the students, the staff at Oklahoma City University. Really everybody just came together to really make it work.
And you guys had kind of, for at least the graduate programs, had already been shifted into kind of the online learning. Is that right?
We did. We had
that's great.
We did.
It was a less stressful time, I'm sure.
There were. For those pieces that we either had a hybrid format where we had students that were in the classroom also joined by those that were live streaming. We had some of the tech pieces, if you will, that were in place. And then we had some classes that were already also fully online as well. So there were some transitions that did not, from sort of a technological or, standing up a different format mid-semester, we didn't have those. But we also had Steve Agee is our dean of the business school, and he always talks about the Minders family, and we talk about it for broader the Oklahoma City University, our community of that. If we even having some of those pieces to have the course delivered, we still had just the personal side of ensuring that students were able to participate if there were things going on in their lives, and having, as I said, as I started, I could talk about it from a personal or professional perspective, but so can everybody, and just all those putting all those pieces together and really wanting to make sure that we had that educational success while it was happening in a very stressful environment for everybody of trying to understand, what this was, what was happening, what precautions needed to be taken. So
that's it. It's such a challenging time for all of us, for the industry, for schools, for families, and the entire landscape will be changed whenever this does see some sort of a conclusion, whatever that may be. Things will be changed. Like we see in the industry of so many people, the positives of working from home, and there are many positives, and it gives employees the ability to be around their families more. It gives them less of a commute. It gives them the ability to have their own, the workspace that they need. And we see the stress level decreases, that side increases because of what's going on in the world. But I think it's wonderful that companies, education, all of these things are finding these flexible middle grounds where they can really help out. And to go back to your point also on like Steve and everyone else at OCU, like my alma mater was Oklahoma Christian, and the outreach that I saw that they did for their on-campus students that were doing the online, family was the biggest thing. And I know that's not just for OCU and Oklahoma Christian, but it really, it was such a positive for me to see how these faculties and these staffs immediately jumped on it, and they were like, how can we make people still feel connected, still know that they have, like, we have their back, we are there for them, they can contact us in any way. And while it wasn't the same because of Zoom, it was still giving them hopefully the college experience and the ability to know that people are there supporting you throughout the next stage of your career.
Yes. Yeah.
For sure. There's a lot more that I really want to go into that, but I really want to find out, so how did you get into teaching even and law to begin with? Like, was that something from an early age that you wanted to travel down?
Yes, I think that I probably, my dad is a lawyer and my mom was a teacher. So I am
You were the hybrid.
I am
Look
the
at
hybrid.
You.
So, or my dad is a lawyer. My mom, she's a retired teacher,
but
she's a kindergarten teacher.
My mom was first grade.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I totally dig that and completely respect it. Got into it because of the money, right?
Yes, exactly. Yes, exactly. No, I think that just, I am an absolute blend of my mom and my dad.
Is that here in Oklahoma?
Here in Oklahoma. And so yes, they, I think that was, we grew up when we had days off from school. Not that there were very many, but if there was I don't know. My mom would put my brother, she would put us in our nice clothes, and we would go off to work with my dad for the mornings. And so we would get to go to court with him. We would, we would get to, see, very much see, what he did on his day-to-day life. And as I got older, there were times that I got to, see what my mom was doing in the classroom and different things. So yes, very much. I think I've always loved the law, and it was always a part of our discussions at the dinner table and how things would be resolved, and just
you heard it constantly.
Constantly, and then also, I think I've always wanted to be a teacher. My dad actually also, he was an adjunct professor down in Norman at OU Law School for many years as well. So
that's where you went too, right?
I did. Got my JD is from OU. So
and then New York,
and NYU is where I got my LLM. So
yeah, that's fantastic.
So
that's amazing.
So
that is it, and it's funny where you say when you're around it all the time, like the teaching, and you're around your father, like. And I don't know if your experience was the same way, and it sounds like it may have been a little bit different, but both of my parents were teachers. I had a first grade elementary school teacher mom, and I had a 9th grade history father. And I'm an only child. And so everybody that knew both of my parents were like, you're going to be a teacher whenever you grow up. And I was like, you tell me to do something and I'm going the opposite direction of that. There's no way I'm going to be a teacher. And seeing how good both of them just, and still like seeing how much they affected people. And this many years later of like, my dad's been retired since 2000 and he taught for 40 years, and I'll still meet people and they'll say, now were you from Ponca City? And I said, yeah, I'm from Ponca City. And they said, I had a ninth grade history teacher, and he was the greatest. And it was things like that I started hearing from like late high school to college and everything, that I was like, teaching's pretty cool. And look how many people you get to affect in such a wonderfully blanketed positive way. And like that's the coolest thing. If he and my mom both still see people that are like, oh my gosh, my life was changed by this teacher. Pay the teachers more. That's my one thing. It really was one of those deals, and all through my time at Chesapeake and everything, I was like, yes, I'm in oil and gas. I went away from teaching, and then they started saying, would you teach this class on our educational Chesapeake program, or would you speak at this event? And I thought, you know what, I'm kind of doing what everybody thought I was doing now, but I at least get to do it in the space that like I love too. Yeah. So a little hybrid.
I think that's the fun thing about education is you get to be an educator. It doesn't have to be that you're teaching ninth grade, or you're teaching kindergarten or first grade, or at the collegiate level or whatever. I think there's this opportunity to educate that we all have to learn from one another, really engage. And that's one of the things I think from early on that my parents' education was very important, and I'm still passionate about it from that perspective. So
I butcher every quote that I try to say from, like, you read so many good quotes and you see so many online, but I always like something around the tune of, it was like, as long as you're learning, you're growing, and you're not growing old, but you're growing your mind. And they said you'll stay young as long as you continue to learn things. And I love whenever we have training courses here, like at LIS, or whenever there's opportunity. Like, I can't remember what year it was for cohort 2, but I remember Chesapeake was really big on, again, you can tell the story way better than I can, I know Chesapeake played a pretty big role in helping start that program, like the executive team there. And so from the inside of Chesapeake, we saw that and we were like, and this is cool because a management team cares about continued education for the people that want to do that. And they want their employees to, not just their employees, they want industry-wide professionals to get that potentially positive experience, or more than potentially, it will be a positive experience of learning more, being able to further your career, and being able to hit those new goals that you're setting for yourself whenever you've been in a job for 5 or maybe 10 years. And I completely applauded that. And between the Masters of Legal Studies and the management, it was a hard choice because they both were so good and so focused on so different things. But whenever that kind of came to be, like, kind of give me the rundown of, because that was whenever you were helping get this program started, and tell me how that kind of came into fruition.
Sure. Well, there's a I usually give credit to Steve, to Dean Agee, for telling the earliest part of the story. He gets all the credit for that, but really had that opportunity of Henry Hood and also Martha Berger, both obviously in leadership with Chesapeake, approached Dean Agee at the time, and then John Rochelle's was at Devon and approached Dean Agee about the same time, and they started talking to him about the opportunities that they were seeing with having. There were professionals within their organizations and with the industry much more broadly, that there were some things that they thought in terms of education-wise, some opportunities for them to enhance, what I would call sort of substantive knowledge, but also sort of that broader, greater perspective of this may be, your job may be that you're a geologist or an engineer or an accountant or a division order analyst or a landman, or we can, and so on. But how do all of those pieces then fit together? So it becomes a bigger part of the bigger picture. How do they fit together within an organization, but then also how do they fit together broadly through, out the industry? And so it really came from there. And it's one of the things that I love about the programs. I came on As we started, the first cohort started in January of 2012, and so that was my official start time with OCU. But started meeting with Dean Agee in the fall of 11, I guess. And really getting to see what they putting together, and so in some role or capacity, I've been a part of Oklahoma City University ever since, and have loved it and just appreciate the opportunities. But what I love about how we started is also, though, how it's continued, and that opportunity to reach out to the industry still, and to talk about what is important now in terms we talk about it in terms of continuous improvement,
right?
And that I really think that really is what we talk about, it whether it's in the classroom or engaging with the community, engaging with different industry, engaging with government agencies, and thinking about, okay, this is our, this is our curriculum, or these are the, external things that we're doing to, beyond just in the classroom. What are some things that we can, add to or address, or, different ways that we are continuously ensuring that we're improving, but also engaging. And so I love that it started with that engagement, and that we're continuing to carry that forward.
So in that vein, so again, I was in cohort 2 of this, so it was just beginning, and Meredith was the first professor that I had. I believe that was the first class that I took, and not to play favorites or anything, but it was one of my favorite classes. Like, honestly, it was really good.
Thank you.
I can't think of any that I didn't have a wonderful experience with. They had great speakers come in, great projects that we would work on, things that and I wrongly assumed how much I already knew. And so I thought, this is one of those things that I can come in and I can breeze through the coursework, and I will get my diploma, and I'll be able to hang it up on the wall, and that will be a check in the direction of the upward transition of Drew Hopkins. And that was also a much younger version of Drew that had a completely skewed version of business. But it did exactly what it was supposed to do. And that was, it was supposed to challenge, it was supposed to be something that, and that was whenever we were having the classes in person, like every Tuesday night or Wednesday night or whatever it was. And there were people from different organizations within Oklahoma City. I think we had 1 or 2 people that never attended but were online. I can't remember if that was the case. But there was a lot of camaraderie that we had, and that in this very small, big world of oil and gas and energy, you really are so fortunate with every different person that you meet, because they're going to be with you for the rest of your career, whether you know it or not. You might send them an email 2 years later, but you have that connection. And every one of the classes, I really felt like I was genuinely challenged, learning something. We would come out of it with a sense of real fulfillment whenever we'd get done with the course. And by the time we graduated, we were like, you know what, I really feel like I am significantly stronger and significantly better as I've ended this than when I started. And excellent experience. I mean, absolutely excellent experience. What's the main difference, just for the people that are watching, between energy legal studies and the energy management?
Okay. So we have 2 master's degrees, as Drew was just mentioning. We have our master's in energy legal studies and our master's in energy management. And both tracks actually begin now, and we have had careful changes over time, including some that since Drew has graduated. But so they start off both with the same first 2 courses. So we talk about it in terms of a cohort, and so as you start with that same group of energy professionals, and you move through the sequence of courses together. So we have a combined cohort when you start, and you start with a leadership and overview of the energy industry course. And then it moves into that's the train. And
if we want to, That means it's train facts time.
Oh,
so
no.
we need to ask you a couple questions about trains.
I won't know.
This is Barrett will pay you $100 out of his own pocket if you can get these confirmed. Barrett, is that right?
Yeah.
No, nothing. So let's try with the word train comes from a German, French, or Spanish verb meaning to drag or to draw.
French.
Correct, Barrett. Okay, well, we've got to go to. Okay, so the Central Pacific Railway. Whenever they were laying the most amount of track per day by hand, mind you.
Okay.
In the United States, how much were they laying per day? Was it 2 miles, 5 miles, 10 miles, or 20 miles per day?
10 miles.
She's 2 for 2, Barrett. You're going to owe a lot here. Final question.
Okay.
Oh man, I've got so many of these. And we planned this out because of the train constantly going by here.
Well, it was funny because there's a moment where you feel the ground rumbling a little bit and you pause just to think, okay, why is the ground rumbling? And then you remember it's the train. So it's okay.
This is a high dollar sound
and we want to
studio.
bring the viewer fully into the experience.
For sure. And I figure I always have a minute and a half to really try to recover this whole thing as our lights are shaking and everything else. The train is now gone, but we're going to hit one more.
Oh, okay.
In 1830,
Oh.
a new train was designed by a Mr. Tom Thumb, and it was capable of going 18 miles an hour. As a stunt, it was pitted in a race versus a horse, a camel, a giraffe, or a dog.
Dog.
That was a horse, so you lost the money.
Oh, no.
So that's really unfortunate.
This is too bad.
Well, Barrett, get her PayPal information after this is over, and we'll make sure that works. So what were we saying? The difference between the programs?
Yes, so we have 2 degrees. You're going to start off together as a combined cohort,
right.
Energy Management, Energy Legal Studies. And one of the things that actually allows us to do is that if we have a student that is still trying to decide which track is the best one for them, they have that time, but you still have that cohort development. And management focuses on the management concepts underlying the energy industry: economics, finance, accounting, operations. Legal studies focuses on the core legal principles underlying the industry, contract law, property law, environmental law. And both of them, though, as I mentioned, they have the leadership and overview course. There's also an overview legal and ethical course as well. They also both take a negotiations course, which is, a fantastic standout course in the curriculum. All of the courses are great, and I do not teach the negotiations course, so I can say this. But they both have the negotiations course, and it really is just this amazing course that time and time again our students talk about how it was helpful for them both in their careers, but also professionally, that they, put just this opportunity. And what is so great too about the faculty that is faculty member that is teaching that course is that he has over time looked at how technology impacts our ability to negotiate, and how it's great to be able to sit down face to face, but we may actually be talking this way via some sort of teleconference system, or maybe there's emails or even texts, right. Which, as for me as somebody risk averse and thinking about how that turns into a contract, but it does. And so it's right. Amazing to see these classes transform over time and addressing different issues as they come about.
And as different issues come about, that kind of segues into something that we talk about here a lot. Is this isn't just an oil and gas time that we can get together and talk. It's about energy, and it's about all the energy. And we've had some amazing people come on, and they've talked about wind and solar and things like that. Do you see that as anything that would ever be incorporated into an energy studies program, or do you already see different things in legal recourse or different cases that are coming up already that you see maybe in the future that would be included in parts of programs like this?
Yes, absolutely. In fact, we already do. We have,
really?
We have where it's appropriate, and we have made adjustments so that it really is, it's an opportunity for far beyond oil and gas professionals, and truly the kind of what I think of sometimes as the big E energy, and very all-encompassing. And so, for example, we currently have students that are a part of the industry from utilities, renewables, broadly. We have also some that are in part of conservation and efficiency roles. And so that's what I love about the cohort dynamic. Even now we're fully online, and that's not a pandemic choice. That was actually something that we made going in advance of the pandemic, that the entire program would be moved online, and still having that cohort interaction and that opportunity to learn from one another. It's so the different perspectives, and gives everybody that opportunity to really see that broad, approach to energy and to learn from one another. I always say that I learn so much from my students all the time. It's just, I love to hear what they're doing with their jobs. We had, obviously the issues with the cold weather the past several months. And so some of the students in their day jobs were talking about how that impacted them, if they had, where they could, pull power from, and different issues that they were working on, in, real time, that as they're, we have opportunities to meet in, synchronous sessions, as we would say, and connect. And it's just, it's fun.
You've really seen the student body of this and I was fortunate enough to speak in a couple of the classes, which was super fun. And they would say, we've got people that are in Ohio, and we've got people all over the place. Have you seen, maybe not just in the pandemic because it hasn't been that long, but have you seen your student body of going online to this, that has really given you a wider berth of people are taking advantage of it, maybe from Colorado to the East Coast to, everywhere else?
Yes, I think, it has started. It's, our transition to fully online started in, the years do funny things to me right now.
I know, right?
August of 19. So we're still seeing that kind of come into play. But yes, we have students from, several different states, and it is interesting to see the energy issues that are happening, like I said, that they share, that are happening within their state, and then what that looks like for their region, and then the country broadly, and then the world too. And so, yes, and that's it. We welcome that, opportunity.
I absolutely love it. I think it's fantastic. For the industry in the past, I'd say 15 months, I know you're very up on knowing so many of these companies, and you've experienced what we've all experienced, and that is seeing how the effect of pandemic and demand of all of these things. We see the price per barrel of oil drop considerably, causing a lot of stress for people throughout jobs. What would you say to people with much uncertainty right now? Because I think I'm hesitant always to say we're coming out of it, because we know we're in an industry that's very cyclical and it moves up and down. I feel a lot more positive right now about this, and I think this is one of those things of where we're seeing companies emerge, and they figured out ways to be more efficient, to be leaner, and they're truly finding ways to lean on the people that, not just the people that have gone through programs like this, but have really pushed themselves farther to put themselves in a leadership position to be able to find ways that they can save money and put their company in a good spot. What are your thoughts of you've kind of seen ups and downs in the industry too, has this been catastrophically different, or are you thinking that this is just another one of those things that, hey, we're going to rebound out of, and we need people to keep on keeping on, of continuing that education and looking for ways that you can better yourself? Like, how do you think as we come out of this, what are the big gains that people can have?
That's a great question. There's a lot of different ways that I think I could answer.
It's a very open question.
Yes, I know.
It's almost too open, some would say.
I like it though. I think in terms of thinking about moving forward and moving more towards the future, as I said, I'm passionate about education, and I think there really is an opportunity to still continue to focus on those opportunities that even as, things are tighter and, different decisions are being made, that particularly when we think about it from the graduate level perspective of having that opportunity. And I get the opportunity to teach not only our master's students in energy, but also our MBA students. And we have the opportunity for our students to also take that program online now as well. And so I see with that, I sort of across the board, I think that there really is that opportunity to still figure out how to balance those challenges that everybody are facing, but still pursue education and still keep advancing. Like you were talking about, reading and learning just a few minutes ago, that I think there is still that great opportunity. And in some ways, some of our students kind of talk about this opportunity to engage with others is so welcomed and still have that connection. Because I think, yes, we're getting close to moving out of that, but we still don't have all those opportunities to connect with one another. And I think that's one of the neat things about education. I think with the industry, I think we're in an interesting time in terms of transition and what that's going to look like moving forward. We obviously, with the change in administration at the federal level, there are a lot of new policies that are being advanced, and some very specific changes, whether they're accomplished through executive order or accomplished through legislative action with Congress. And so those are going to have a change, but I think there are opportunities within those changes. And as we're making transitions to different sources of whether it's for power generation, for example, I think that I think there are ways that even a wide variety of companies that they can say, well, what are the next opportunities? Where are we going to see those places that this is what we're doing now? How can we continue doing that well? But how can we also be a part of what's coming ahead? And so I think, I don't know. I'm hopeful and positive, I guess, about the future. I don't know. That was your very open question, but I'm hopeful and positive, and I say that across the board. So
I have felt more like, I want to make sure I say it the right way too, of in the late 2000s, so in cohort 2.
Yes.
In cohort 2, in those years, we saw a pretty a significant dip. And there was some times that we would come into the class and we would genuinely be worried for our classmates of, does everyone here still have a job? And that was one of those things that shows, again, the faculty and the organization, like the educational system, how much family they were. And then also the industry family of, you're really looking out for, you want the best for no matter what company, because we're all in this together. Mm-hmm. And that was so tough, but it was so revealing and so wonderful. And you use that word opportunity many times, and that is what I always fall back on, of whether it is taking your career down a new path, whether it is finding a new way to get a foothold or a handhold to start pulling yourself back up. There's opportunity there. It's just trying to locate it and trying to find it. And it's not easy. It's certainly hard, but it's there. And the people that you surround yourself with can play this huge role on building you up and helping you find that new thing that you're passionate about. So
yes,
whether that be in industry or without,
Yes.
I always think back too of whenever we were starting it, and I've heard people that I talk to, people ask me about the program every once in a while, and a lot of people say, well, I have a family now, I have XYZ bills that I'm paying, and I don't want another bill on top of it. And we always can make excuses, yes, and I was doing the same thing too. If I was just like, I don't know, I'll put it off another year, until things stabilize a little bit more. And then I remember talking to somebody, and they said the same thing that you see always online on like a meme or whatever, and they're like, you can put something off for 2 years or 3 years or whatever, or you could start something and you can find a way to make your way through it, and then that same 2 years down the road that you still would have been putting this off, now you're done with it and it's behind you, and you figured out a way to worked through it with your family and they're supportive, and you figured out a way to work through it with your current work, you figured out financially, and after that you've got this, you have something physical that you can say, I did this and I put this together and I'm in a better spot for it. And that was 100% put in place with mine, because I made every excuse in the book not to do it. And then by the time I did it, again, going back, all just great classes, great experience, great connections. And after I was done, I was like, this is impactful. This is something that is going to be a positive impact for the rest of my life. And so that I'm super thankful for. As we kind of round this out, the other thing that we always talk about here is leadership, and we've covered that with how the classes provide these great courses, even helping people understand the leadership that they can throw into an organization. Were there any impactful, and I mean, we have all people that have influenced us throughout our lives, our careers. Can you think of anybody within your career that really made a huge difference in kind of, whether that be mentoring you or getting you in a direction of where you're like, this is a person that I would use as a staple of what I want to mold my career off of?
Let's see. Yes, I have been very fortunate to have several people, I think, along the way that have helped me, but in different phases of my career path, I guess I would say.
Right.
I think that, and lessons that I learned. For example, after I graduated from college, I worked in DC for a brief time, and it was very fun. But there were people that, as it was my first full-time professional job, that there are people that I can think about that taught, just even sort of the dynamics of that interaction and responsibilities and expectations. And I'm trying to think, I just drew a blank on his name. Glenn Powell, who was chief of staff in our office at the time, and who is actually, before he was in government, was a part of the energy industry. So really? I have gotten to run into him at NAPES over the years, which is fantastic. Cool. And sort of that connection of just, I don't know, he just had the way he set the environment for the office too, I think was very productive and conducive to accomplishing the goals and that we had before us as a team. And I've had professors that I've been very grateful. Richard Burr was one of my professors at Trinity University that was, expected a lot of us as students, but cared about us and took an interest in us. And I just am, grateful for that. I think as an attorney, Robert Gum, who goes by Bob Gum, is an oil and gas attorney. He's practiced law for decades in Oklahoma City, and he's still a very good friend of mine. And
is all of this what kind of got you into the oil and gas side of it?
Yes, yes. Cool. Well, yes, definitely, and especially with my law practice. That was a part of our firm's practice, and but also even with that we had professionals that we would be working on with cases, and goodness, I'll think of his name in a moment, I'm sure, as soon as the camera stops. But there was an engineer that was working with us on a case, and we were working through some technical aspects of the case, and you kind of bring your role as a lawyer and the technical role in putting this together. And so I think I say that to say that I know you asked more about mentors, but I think I love the opportunity to learn. And so, I had a client years ago that owned a trucking company. They hauled mud in the oil field, and I learned how semis work, and just the different it is. Yeah, and so really I think that's the thing that I love. And I remember I had a contracts professor in law school, and he was talking about one time how he had a case that involved gravel, and he said, I know more about gravel than I would have ever thought, but you get this opportunity to learn. And I think that's one of the things that I love about being as being an attorney, that you get to bring your expertise and knowledge as an attorney to the table, but you get to learn so much more of putting all the pieces together. And so I love that. I love that now as a student of what, in the, as I say, like that I'm always learning in the classroom, even though I'm, might be the professor in that environment. And that I also, and that's one of the things I love, that I get to still research and write too about different things. And so I've had, I don't know, I think I sort of went on and on about but there have been different people awesome. Along the way that I can still reach out to, that I can talk to and provide, and I've had others who on campus at OCU who have been great help in terms of my development as a faculty member. And I see, and so what you've said mirrors so many other people that we've talked to in these very same chairs. It's, it could be father figures, it could be people, teachers, professors, different people that they worked with, and not even under the mentor badge, but it was the people that expect a lot. Yes.
They expect a lot, and by that you're going to gain a lot, because like many times in my career, the people that expected the most, I wanted to overproduce the most for them, because I don't know if it was trying to gain their gain some sort of positivity from them, or to show them that, hey, I can do this, I can totally do it. But in that, it helped me develop who I was, helped me develop like stronger character, stronger skills on being able to do investigative research, so many different things that I could tick off a laundry list box. And all it was because these people were like, I'm not satisfied with you just don't be mediocre, be something special. And that was the little kick in the pants that I needed, that got me where I'm going. And so it's so cool to be able to talk to people and find out how they're being able to do that now. For like, you can do that for the students in your classroom. And honestly, again, like not to say it, but I enjoyed your class because of that, because it wasn't in many of the professors, and I stumble on names just because I stumble on names. They did that exact same thing, and that's why they're in the role they're in. I really like that. So, in closing, I think we've seen a lot with OCU, this wonderful, wonderful program. Learned a lot about Meredith as well. Meredith, to kind of end the whole thing off, if people want to contact you, or if they want to find out more about the programs, what's the best way to get a hold of you, get a hold of the programs, or just find out more in general?
Sure, absolutely. Well, I would say, one, reach out to me, please. And since this is on the internet, I probably won't share my cell phone. But I usually
we'll get that to you.
We'll get that to you. I usually, actually, all my students usually have it, so that they can, if they have questions along the way. Through the, we have, of course, Oklahoma City University's website, and
I see it on LinkedIn too.
which is, yes, I was going to say, so the website for OCU is www.okcu.edu, but I'm on LinkedIn, so please feel free to reach out and connect with me that way. I think my email probably is, I won't spell it out for you on the video, but my email is on the website. And so please do. I'd love to visit with you. And whether it's about the energy programs, or as I mentioned, part of the, MBA programs. And, I talk to a lot of folks that are interested in advancing their careers, but I also talk to a lot of families that are thinking about, is there something that they're looking for, maybe their kids, how, that they're moving along in the energy industry. And so I, would be happy to have any of those conversations.
I think that's absolutely fantastic. So take her up on it. Find her on LinkedIn, and definitely reach out. Continue learning, continue pushing yourself, and continue enjoying your life. So thanks again for watching Listen Up. I'm Drew Hopkins.